The rest of my day was uneventful. I only had to talk about my incidents in, well, every single class, and it was the same battery of questions every time. Did I really lose my memory? What did I really see in the woods? Why did Spencer get questioned by the police? Did he really get attacked by an animal, or was it me? Did I see a murder? Was I abducted by aliens? I still couldn't believe someone actually asked me the last one, in a non-ironic way. I made a mental note to stay far, far away from that kid. I couldn't avoid talking about it every time. Some students were relentless. Eventually, I just settled into the same rote answers. Yes, I really lost my memory. No, I don't know what I saw, but I was pretty sure it wasn't a murder. The police were trying to cover all their bases, but Spencer had nothing to do with it. He really was attacked by something, but it wasn't me. And as far as I was aware, no aliens were involved. Most people opted to leave me alone when they realized they weren't going to get any juicy details out of me, so otherwise there were no major problems. At any rate, no one else decided to be blatantly rude to me. What I really wanted to do was grab Allie and talk to her about what happened at lunch, but I didn't get a chance. I mean, she knew that guy better than I did. At the very least, she could tell me if it was just me or if they treated everyone that way. But we didn't have any afternoon classes together, and I hadn't seen her in the hall either. It was a little lonely, to be honest. Especially since the day was such a mixed bag. I knew I'd settle in. I knew the rumors would die out, no matter how much Kara or anyone else tried to stir them up. There was just nothing to really talk about anyway. I knew first days were usually kinda rough. But I couldn't deny I'd been hoping for better. My head was pounding by the time I made my way to my locker and dumped the last of my newly assigned textbooks in it. I stood quietly for a moment, head leaning against the side as I geared myself up for the tense ride home. Oh yeah, I remember this part. I don't remember this part. I want to say Elliot came to talk to us? I can't remember.
Hey, Nora.
I turned hesitantly at the sound of my name, but sighed in relief when it was only Elliot, someone I doubted was going to pick a fight or interrogate me. How did I know? Man, this game must have really made an impression on me 2 years ago. If I'm still like, it's all coming back to me now. Hey dude, good to see you. I gave him a tired smile.
Whoa, you okay? You look, kinda pale. Are you feeling sick?
I'm fine.
You sure? You're looking kind of anemic.
Uh-huh, I guess you would know about that, wouldn't you? I'm not anemic, just tired. It was a long day.
Yeah, I heard. A lot of people were talking about you and your brother all day.
Yeah, tell me about it. I slammed my locker door and hefted my book bag to my shoulder.
I also saw what happened at lunch.
Yeah.
About that.
It's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm not mad at anyone over that.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Like I said, it wasn't a big deal.
Okay. Just don't take it personally, okay? Everyone here has their stories. Know what I mean?
I suppose I should know that better than anyone.
And don't worry about people talking about you. I mean, they'll stop. Soon. Probably.
Encouraging. Well, I couldn't complain. He was trying to cheer me up, and that was sweet. I'm sure they will. I rubbed my head and gave him another exhausted smile. I should go. The evil twin is probably already waiting impatiently for me.
Okay. I have a club meeting I need to get to. I really hope you feel better.
Aw, that's very sweet. Have fun at your club. Okay, well, have fun at your club then. Maybe I should try to enter a club too.
It's not really the sort of club you have fun at usually, but I'll try.
Okay. Intriguing. He waved and darted off down the hall toward the stairwell. What sort of club isn't meant for fun? A supernatural club. I wondered if the office had a list of clubs I could register for. And that's when I found out there were no clubs. Of course, I'd have to coordinate with Spencer or get a ride from someone, so I might want to wait until I was a little more settled in. But it might be nice to get involved in something during my last year. At any rate, I made my way outside, keeping an eye out for Spencer as I went. I wasn't looking forward to the drive home at all, but this time I'd just stay quiet. I don't think I can handle another argument today. My nerves were already pretty frayed. Well, it's about to get worse. I jogged across the front lawn toward the parking lot in spite of my head. If anything, Spencer complaining that I'd made him wait would just make my headache worse anyway. I immediately spotted the car, and it looked like Spencer was already waiting. I picked up the pace. When I got home, I was just going to go upstairs and immediately crash. And sleep. Wait, what is he doing? I was still at least 20 yards from him, so why was Spencer already backing out of the parking space? Does he not see me? I waved one arm as I ran, wondering if he thought I was getting a ride with Allie or something. I froze mid-wave as he pulled out of the space, looked right at me, and drove off. I'd be so furious if my brother did that to me. I'd be so angry. Are you kidding me? I very nearly threw my backpack on the ground and had a tantrum right there in full view of everyone. Yanking my phone out, I sent him a flurry of angry texts. What are you doing? You looked right at me. Hello? Are you coming back to get me? Stop ignoring me. You should be glad he's not texting and driving. 10 minutes later, there was still no answer. I tried calling twice, but he didn't pick up. Tears of frustration stung my eyes as I clutched my backpack so hard the strap cut into my hand. He wasn't coming back. He just left me there while looking right at me. How could he do that? The parking lot was rapidly emptying, but I was not going to stand there and cry in front of everyone. Trembling with fury, I stormed away to find a place to calm down, think, and plot how I was going to murder my brother in his sleep. After I figured out how I was going to get home. I could text Mom, but she and Dad were both at work. Grandma and Grandpa would be busy too. I flopped down under a tree near the back corner of the parking lot. Allie said she had a club meeting, so I didn't think she could give me a ride unless I waited for her to finish. I didn't know anyone else well enough to ask. I bit my lower lip hard and looked up quickly, trying to blink away the tears before they spilled over. But there was no one nearby, and unless someone walked right past me, I didn't think I'd be easily seen. I finally gave in and buried my face in my knees, sobbing quietly, half from anger and half from sheer disappointment. The whole day had just kind of sucked, and I felt stupid for being so glad to be back. Things are gonna get better. You're gonna meet Goth Boyfriend.
Are you crying?
Shoot! I looked up, hastily wiping at my face as I wondered who was crashing my little pity party. Hubba, hubba, hubba. This guy, though, man. Now, I've been told by you guys I should probably leave him for last, which does break my heart a little bit, but also I'm kind of okay with doing that, so I think I will. I think in the ending list he's kind of in the middle, but I think based on what you guys have told me, it's probably a good choice to leave him for last, and I don't mind. Builds anticipation. A super tall guy in a leather jacket was standing nearby looking down at me. I hadn't even heard him walk up. I'm fine. I rubbed the back of my hand across my eyes, feeling pathetic. There was no way he'd believe I wasn't crying.
Really?
I nodded vigorously, but from his tone, it was obvious he knew it wasn't true. He scoffed.
Whatever.
He turned away and walked to a motorcycle parked nearby. Ugh, I can't believe someone caught me crying. How middle school of me. But he approached you and was like checking on you. I watched him set the helmet on the seat and stow his backpack. I probably shouldn't have stared, but he was kind of rude, so I was going to stare all I wanted. If I was going to revert back to middle school with my behavior, I might as well take it all the way. He paused and glanced my way again. I watched him grab something and stalk back over. He tossed something square and rectangular to me. I barely managed to catch it. Achoo! Facial tissue! What a great brand. Tissues. Thanks. Okay, maybe he's actually a nice guy? He shrugged.
Is there a reason you're sitting back here crying?
I said I'm not crying. Well, I'm not, Baka. I said I'm not crying. I mean, I obviously had been, but I like to stick to my guns. His lips curved up slightly and smirked down at me.
I could say I'm the president. It wouldn't make it true.
Touché. Thanks. For the tissues, I mean. Not for badgering me about crying.
I wasn't badgering, I was asking. But it's not a problem. I'm Ewan, by the way.
That was an interesting name. Ewan. Nora. He just nodded and crouched next to me.
I don't recognize you.
I'm new. Sort of. I used to live here a few years ago, but I just moved back.
Ah, you're that girl.
I gave him a questioning look, but he just shrugged.
I overheard some kids talking about a new girl. Something about some disappearances a few years back.
Again? That's me.
I see. Well, you look more normal than I expected.
What's that supposed to mean?
Hey, I was just about to leave. Are you waiting for a ride? Do you need a lift or something?
Oh, I don't... My brother ditched me, so I don't know yet. I'm still trying to figure out how to get home.
I'll give you a ride if you don't mind riding a motorcycle.
My dream! I've always wanted to ride on a motorcycle. I haven't ridden one before.
I'm not going to force you.
I bit my lip. I shouldn't accept a ride from someone I didn't know, but at the same time, I didn't know if anyone else would come get me. I probably shouldn't. I want to. I know I did the first when I did the gander. No, I shouldn't. Oh, this boy is so beautiful. Anticipation. Thanks, but I can't ask you to do that. I'll just text everyone I know until someone shows up or forces my idiot brother to come back for me. Thanks, though. I really, really appreciate the offer.
Yeah. Good luck with that, then.
He shoved his helmet on his head and left pretty quickly. I watched him go, somewhat regretting my decision. With a sigh, I pulled my phone out and texted Allie. So, my idiot brother left me here. I hate to bug you, but can I get a ride? What? I'm in a club now, but I can leave early. Where are you? You sure? I'm outside by some huge tree. Descriptive. Hang on, I'll be right there. There was no way Allie wouldn't realize I'd been crying, but I did my best to look cheerful by the time she came out. Oh my god, are you okay? Well, I mean, he just ditched me. It's not like he actually pushed me out of the car or anything. She paused and gave me a critical look. You cried. Yes. Yes, I did. Hey, let's not talk about that. She frowned, and I almost thought she wasn't going to let me get away with that. She finally just shrugged and started walking toward the parking lot. She motioned me to follow her as she headed to her tiny old car. So, when are you getting your own vehicle? I don't know. I've been trying to save up. The move kinda threw me off. Man, Spencer is a real piece. Yeah. I guess he's just having a hard time moving on. Everyone asking so many questions today probably just dredged up some unpleasant memories. If it was hard for me to talk about, it was probably harder on him. I was telling myself that anyway, but it just felt like an excuse. I groaned as I flopped into the front seat of Allie's car and tossed my backpack behind me. Today sucked. Everything just picked up right where it left off. I didn't expect it to be like this. Allie got in and paused, looking at me cautiously.
Well, I'm sure that's true for Spencer, too.
I know. I don't think either of us expected everyone to start asking about that.
Seems like our old friend was running around encouraging it.
I thought so. She was looking quite smug about the whole thing during chemistry.
Want me to beat her up?
I scoffed. Allie, I have seen you rescue earthworms from the pavement after the rain because you're worried they'll die when the puddles dry up.
Because it's so sad. After the sun comes out, they get all hot and swollen and...
My point is, I highly doubt you're capable of beating up anyone.
I can give her a very thorough verbal thrashing.
I'm sure that would just make it worse. You shouldn't put yourself between us. And in any case, that won't change that Spencer hates me.
He doesn't hate you, Nora.
Sure seems like it.
Something traumatic happened to him, and this is just his bizarro way of coping with having it brought up again. It doesn't excuse ditching you at school. Don't think I'm saying that. I'm just saying he probably had a rough day too.
I know that. I just felt really tired. I didn't know how long I could take the blame or how many times I could apologize.
Maybe he'll be willing to talk it out with you someday.
Well, he's not going to get the chance because when I get home, I'm going to kill him.
I'll help you hide the body.
I grinned at her. That's how you know she's your best friend. Thanks.
No problem. A good friend is always willing to help hide a body or two.
She gave me a sidelong look.
Seriously, though, I hope he gets trash duty for at least a month.
I'm still really glad to be back.
I'm glad you're back, too.
In spite of everything, catching up to Allie was actually kind of fun. We finally had time to catch up a bit, so that at least was a good thing. And when I got home, Dad was there and Spencer was already in so much trouble. Nice. All in all, it wasn't as terrible an end to the day as I expected. Didn't get to ride a motorcycle with a cute heterochromia goth boy, but you can't have everything. Chapter 3, Paranormal Mysteries Club. I told you! Well, I said supernatural, but I told you! 'Twas a Tuesday. I was pretty sure I was dreaming, but it was cold and pitch black. There was no sound, no sensation. I tried to move, but it was as if the darkness was weighing me down. I tried to scream, but there was nothing. I couldn't hear the sound of my own voice. I couldn't even feel myself screaming. As I waited for any sign, any sound, or hint of light, I slowly became aware of the fact that I was running. The slow tingle of sensation began to creep back. My feet were crashing through what felt like underbrush. The cold prickle of wet pine needles jabbed into me as I ran. I have to find what? I didn't know. Inwardly, I screamed at myself to stop running.
No, not yet, not yet!
It was my voice speaking, but it wasn't me. I sounded raspy and weird, and I didn't even know what I had meant by that. Finally, I came to a halt. My hand reached out to steady myself against something. I felt scratchy bark against my skin. The moment I touched it, reality came crashing back. Or rather, it felt like I went crashing from nothingness back into reality. Oh, well, that's not what I was expecting. Okay. I expected to wake up in my bed in a cold sweat, but when I came to, I was standing up. I wasn't even in my room, much less in my bed, and I'm lost in the woods again. I was in the middle of the woods surrounded by trees on all sides. Panic rose in my throat. Did I do it again? That strange sensation of crashing back into reality was both eerily familiar and terrifyingly nostalgic. I had felt it before. How long have I been gone this time? My heart was thudding uncomfortably as I looked around and listened for search parties. It was probably stupid to immediately assume I'd been missing for weeks already, but it's not like it would have been unprecedented. There was only silence. I wasn't sure whether I should have been relieved or not, but at the very least I must not have been gone long. But now what? It was dark but cloudless. I was in a bit of a clearing, so the moon lit up my surroundings pretty well. I turned, trying to get my bearings. To my great relief, I saw the warm glow of lights through the trees only a short distance away. Was I just sleepwalking? Or something? That had never happened before, especially not to the point that I ended up outside. Okay, because I was wondering, like, did this happen when you got lost the other times? Did you sleepwalk into the woods? Or were you already in the woods playing and got lost? I need more info. I took a deep breath and started making my way back toward the lights. It was freezing, and before I stopped to contemplate any major questions about the current situation, I needed to get back home. I would worry about the sudden sleepwalking problem after that. Werewolf! Something in the distance let out a long howl. A shiver crawled up my spine as I looked anxiously over my shoulder. Coyote, maybe? It was a ways off, but still too close for comfort. I carefully picked my way through a little gully, wincing as I found a blackberry vine I hadn't been looking for. Ow, ow, ow! It managed to wrap itself around both legs in no time. Thorns jabbed at my fingers as I tried to pry it off in the dark. I didn't know blackberries had thorns. Interesting. The sudden crackle of underbrush off to one side immediately put my heart in my throat again. What was that? I strained to see into the shadows. It might have just been a deer, but this area did, apparently, have black bears, not to mention things like cougars. Everything went silent again. I was thinking of making a break for the lights. They were maybe 40 yards away and up a little hill. I could make it. Suddenly a shadow moved. I tried to make out the shape, but it was deep in the trees, beyond the moonlight. To my relief, it looked like it was moving away from me. But when it suddenly broke into a run... What? I was almost certain I'd glimpsed something person-shaped. Someone else was out here too? But who? And were they watching me? Yeah, I'm not gonna follow that. No. I didn't stick around to find out who that was. I yanked myself away from the blackberries and broke into a staggering run toward the lights. My feet were going to be a mess, but if the rest of me was safe, that's all that mattered. I could live without feet. I didn't know where the shadow went. It was gone in no time, unsurprisingly. They had shoes, I assumed. I didn't. In the woods, barefoot running was more like frantic, pain-filled hopping. But in a few minutes I broke through the trees and found myself not far from my house. The lights I'd seen through the trees were from Elliot's back porch. Thank goodness. The back gate had been left wide open. I must have come out through there. From the looks of it, I was right. I hadn't been gone long. The lights were still off inside. Fortunately, I woke up before I got too far away. I let myself back into the yard, quietly creeping to the house and into the partially open back door. It was so weird knowing I had to have come this way, but I didn't remember any of it. It wasn't like it was unusual for me, but I just could not afford to start this stuff up again. As I was shutting the door, I heard the sound of soft movement behind me. I spun around, startled. Spencer was there at the bottom of the stairs. I could barely make his face out in the dim light from over the stove. What are you doing? I stepped out for some air. Couldn't sleep. I wasn't about to tell him I'd gone for a little sleepwalk in the woods at night. I padded across the kitchen and tried to get up the stairs, but Spencer blocked my way. That's all you were doing? Yeah, that's it. Can you let me go to my room? I'm freezing. Wait a second. I'd been doing the creepy sleepwalker thing, and had to do some serious thinking about that. But what are you doing up? I heard you coming in. I thought it might be a burglar. Ah. Well, it's not. Just me. And since I live here, could you please move? Did you watch her sleepwalk out of here and we're like, I'm just gonna wait and see what happens? He didn't look like he wanted to, but he finally stepped aside and let me pass. It wasn't until I shut the door to my room that I realized Spencer had been fully dressed. And wearing shoes. Why was he fully dressed if he got up when he heard me come in? Then again, maybe he'd thrown his clothes on when he thought he heard someone downstairs. No one wanted to confront a potential thief in a t-shirt and boxers, I assumed. But you wouldn't need shoes to... I don't think he was the shadow. Because he'd have to be hella fast. I mean, if he had shoes, he would probably beat me back. I don't know. Curious. But I was way too tired to dwell on that. And before I could go back to sleep, I had to pick the thorns out of my feet, then disinfect the numerous cuts and scrapes. That occupied me for far longer than I would have liked. There's probably blood all over the floor where I walked in. When I finally fell into bed, I didn't have any more answers about why I'd been outside than I did when I first woke up out there. And I wasn't sure if there was anyone I could tell about it. Not without kicking up a fuss. And I really, really didn't want that. I don't know, I think you should warn your parents that you might just disappear. Again. Before bed last night, and before my nighttime escapades in the woods, Allie and I had texted quite a bit about my less than exemplary first day at school. She had casually informed me that she would be driving me there and back for the foreseeable future. Or at least until I got my own car. Fortunately, she lived in the same neighborhood, so it wouldn't really be an inconvenience for her to stop by. The only drawback was that she usually had to arrive early because she did extra credit work in the office. It was mostly just filing and such, but it meant she had to be there quite a bit before class started. Which meant I would have to loiter around the school with nothing to do for a little over half an hour. I wasn't going to complain though, it could have been worse. I had to admit that I was kind of annoyed Spencer basically won. He wouldn't have to drive me to school or put up with being anywhere near me anymore. But then Dad informed us that Spencer had lost car privileges for the next month. Dad would pick him up after school and drive him to the showroom for work, and the poor guy would have to catch the bus every morning. To add insult to injury, the car would sit unused the entire time since I'd be riding with Allie. Yeah, I'm like, but if he's lost car privileges, why can't I drive it, Dad? Huh? Unless it's his car, like he bought it. In which case, understandable. She's not even going to be using it!
Too bad. You left her at school. On purpose. I don't think you deserve to drive the car.
I'm already going to be working for you for a month and doing all her chores. I get it. I'm sorry. I just had a bad day.
That's not an excuse to leave your sister crying in the parking lot.
They were already at it when I went downstairs. I tried to ignore the fight as I ate breakfast. Thank you, Dad. It wasn't easy, especially with the look Spencer kept giving me. I'm the innocent party here. You don't get to glare at me when you're in the wrong. He could not expect me to feel sorry for him. There was absolutely no way I would feel sorry for him. Why do I feel sorry for him? Oh, Nora. I mean, he was my brother. and he was already being punished. I tried to ignore the part of me that wanted to defend him. Aw, you had to pull the defend my brother card, didn't you? You guys are gonna be bestest siblings. I swears it. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't let him suffer. Dad, just let him use the car. I already have another ride. They both looked at me in surprise. I couldn't blame them. My defending him was probably the last thing they'd expected.
Yesterday you were pretty eager to see Spencer punished.
Well, yesterday I was still mad. And I do think he deserves the work he's getting. Because that was a lousy thing to do, Spencer. I gave up on breakfast, pushing my plate away. But I mean, there's no point in the car just sitting there. It's cold, so it'll probably sap the battery. And that'll be a pain. And just... I don't know. He's going to suffer enough having to put up with you and Grandpa in the same room with each other every afternoon.
She's not wrong.
Thank you, Courtney. That's helpful.
I try.
Are you sure about this, Nora? I mean, you're the one he left there.
I shrugged. It sucked. But it wasn't worth this. Besides, there was a part of me that just didn't want to deal with him being even angrier at me than he already was. I'm fine with it. Just let him use it. Dad mulled it over for a long time.
If she's okay with it, why not let him use the car? It'll be a burden for everyone if you have to pick him up every day for a month.
Okay, alright, Mom. I see who your favorite twin child is. It's fine. I have Dad on my side.
Fine. The driving part of your sentence is revoked, but the chores and work at the showroom stand.
Spencer looked enormously relieved. He grabbed his books off the counter and immediately headed out the door. But he paused as he passed by the table. For the first time in a really, really long time, I felt his hand ruffling my hair. Stop, my heart. I looked up in surprise to see him giving me a really sad look. Thanks. And he was gone. I was kind of stunned. I'm stunned. I like hair ruffles. My heart. I was just rinsing my breakfast dishes when I heard Allie honking. Moments later, I ran out the door, still trying to pull out my jacket.
So I was thinking.
A dangerous pastime.
I'm not playing.
Aww.
Anyway, I was thinking that you should join my club.
The one you were at yesterday? Man, it's so much nicer to ride with someone who isn't ignoring me.
Yup. There are only a few girls in it. The only one who really shows up frequently is... well... she's kind of a bit... catty.
Oh god, don't tell me it's Kara.
No.
So, you want me to join a club and deal with some other catty girl? I'm gonna call it now and say it's Elliot's stepsister.
I want you to keep me company. You'd fit in great. Give it a try, please. In any case, if you're waiting for me to finish up every day, you might as well just join it instead of sitting around.
Okay, that's a fair point. What is this club anyway?
Paranormal Mysteries Club.
I stared at her. The first thing that came to mind when I thought of the paranormal were UFOs, phone psychics, and those cheesy websites with articles about Atlantis and dinosaurs living in the Amazon. Really?
It's actually really fun.
I eyed her skeptically. I was sure it was fun if you were into that kind of thing, but I couldn't imagine her believing that stuff. So what, you research Bigfoot or something? Do ghost hunts? Look for aliens?
Well, not exactly, but you'll find out if you stop by. I promise you'll have fun. Oh, those two guys you live next door to, Elliot and Danny, they're both in it.
Seriously? I didn't think either of them would be into that sort of thing. Allie, are you a supernatural person? Allie? Allie? Talk to me, Allie. I tried to imagine Danny getting excited over blurry videos of someone in an ape suit. It didn't compute.
You'd be surprised. Just think about it, okay?
It might not hurt to give it a try, I guess. Allie let out her characteristic squeal of excitement. It would be really annoying if it wasn't so completely adorable. When we reached the school, Allie went to help in the office. I decided to stop by my locker before going to the library to read for a while. It was definitely still pretty early. There was almost no one around as I opened my locker door to grab my trig and chemistry books. I really hoped that things would go more smoothly than the day before. Yesterday morning had only been okay because the stories hadn't spread that far yet, but by now everyone had heard them. That sigh! What? What? I'm just like, was there voice acting in this game that I missed? What? That sigh! I was not expecting it. I heard a soft sigh and turned around immediately, expecting to see someone behind me waiting for me to get out of their way. There was no one there. I looked up and down the hall, but there was no one in sight. Okay, that was weird. I definitely heard something. Chewing my lip, I shut my locker door, still listening. Maybe it was a draft of some kind? But it really had sounded like a person. I shook my head and took a deep breath. It was probably just my imagination. I was on edge because of yesterday and last night, that was all. It's the weather, and I have a cold, and I've heard this before somewhere. I headed for the school library. I wonder what sort of things they really do in the Paranormal Mysteries Club. Allie had said it was fun. When I got to the librarian was nowhere to be found, so I hid in the corner and read until the first bell rang. After that, I basically spent the morning thinking about Allie's club. She'd said Danny and Elliot were in it, but I didn't sit close enough to either of them in literature to ask about it. The only interesting thing about Trig was Corvin managing to fall into a knee-high wastebasket. Oh god. Why did you have to be first? Chemistry was boring. Everyone had quickly realized Spencer would not engage, which meant they directed all questions at me. So I told them I'd been kidnapped by Bigfoot and Elvis. I couldn't wait until that rumor got around the school. And I really hoped Kara enjoyed it. As soon as I reached the cafeteria, Danny ambushed me and insisted I have lunch with his group. Since it was better than eating alone, I didn't argue. Elliot was already waving at us from a table across the room, which made it even more impossible to say no. Danny led me over to where he and a few others were sitting.
So everyone, this is Nora.
I shifted uncomfortably as all eyes were suddenly on me. Whoa, who are you? Okay.
Oh, the new girl everyone's talking about?
Well, she is new anyway. You sitting here today, Nora?
Yeah, looks like it. I was relieved that no one argued. They just moved their chairs around so I could sit sandwiched between Danny and Elliot.
So, how do you know Danny?
I looked over at the girl talking. I had no idea what her name was, but she had a nice smile. Well, I moved in next door.
Oh, so you're neighbors then?
I nodded. Yep. That's what moving in next door meant, pretty much. The boy who spoke leaned across the table and grinned.
So all the things people are saying about you, are they true?
James, come on, man.
I was just asking.
It's fine. And like I've told everyone so far, no, most of the things being said or speculated are not true. I really did get lost in the woods. I really don't remember it. My brother really was attacked by what we think was probably a cougar or something while out looking for me. Yes, he injured one of his eyes. No, they're not sure how. It's actually nowhere near as mysterious as people try to make it out to be. It was just sensationalized at the time. All that happened was that I got lost and Spencer somehow hurt his eye.
So, you really didn't see a murder in the woods?
Raina.
I think that's about as likely as encountering Sasquatch.
Maybe it was a serial killing Sasquatch.
I liked her. Well, aliens are also a popular theory.
Serial killing alien Sasquatch?
Now that's just crazy talk. Everyone laughed, and I was just relieved the conversation didn't seem like it was going to be the usual interrogation.
Oh! Elliot, man. I read about something yesterday that your club totally should investigate.
Oh?
Bat Squatch!
Bat Squatch?
You know, like giant bats.
He gestured wildly as he started explaining the supposed creature to Elliot. I tuned him out and turned to Danny. So, I don't see Allie anywhere. I didn't see her yesterday either. Do you know if she eats somewhere else?
Ellie? Yeah. I don't think she eats in the cafeteria.
Ah, I see. That was disappointing. I guess it meant I couldn't even have lunch with her. I wondered where she did eat. Maybe with the teachers or something? Though I couldn't imagine that would be fun. But even if she wasn't around, Danny's friends weren't too bad. They were rowdy, but really nice. I didn't usually like crowds much, but after yesterday it was a nice change of pace to be surrounded by friendly people.
Speaking of the club, Allie mentioned she invited you to join it.
Oh yeah. Well,
Haven't made your mind up about it.
I mean... I glanced back at James dubiously as he tried to convince Elliot that Bat Squatch was a viable topic of study for the club. Do you really study things like that? Danny just laughed.
No. Not really. We do look into the paranormal, but I suppose it's a little more mainstream than Bat Squatch.
Mainstream. I wondered if that was more along the lines of ghosts and ESP instead of UFOs and unlikely mammals.
There are a lot of stories that have much more solid foundation beneath them than Bat Squatch. You don't think that maybe some folklore has a seed of truth to it?
I guess it depends on the folklore. I mean, if you take something like the vampires of Europe, a lot of people think that certain historical figures might have inspired some of those tales with their less than savory behavior. But if you're suggesting that the seed of truth is supernatural in origin, I'm not sure about that.
But it does make for a potentially interesting study topic, right?
I suppose it might.
If Allie invited you, then you should consider taking her up on it. It might be nice to have a new member. No, seriously, we'd love to have a new member.
Hey, that's not fair. I tried to join too, you know. And your president kept avoiding me until I finally ended up joining something else. And now my schedule's too full.
I thought you didn't join because the club room creeped you out.
That's not it. I mean, it is kinda creepy though.
I didn't even think the Mysteries Club accepted new members. Everyone I know who thought about joining ended up not doing it. You gotta be part of the paranormal supernatural to actually be in the paranormal supernatural club.
No normal humans allowed.
We take new members sometimes. I think people often just decide they don't have time for it.
Huh. Now they're making me kinda curious. And Danny's description actually did sound kind of interesting. At the very least, it was different than what I'd first imagined. I mulled it over for the rest of lunch, wondering just what kind of club it really was.